Okay.
All right, 7 o'clock, so we're gonna call the meeting to order. I would ask if there's any addition, we do have one addition that we missed on our original agenda, and that was just an update for Halloween restrictions, so we will add that. Any other additions this evening?
Yes, Your Worship, at Reeve Street.
Any other additions this evening?
No, it's in the minutes.
Okay, I would ask for approval of the agenda with the 2 amendments.
Moved.
Do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. The agenda is approved with the 2 additions. Our first item is gallery presentation. We have the Sports Wall of Fame Committee presentation by Deputy Mayor Huey over. You, Huey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Council for listening to my presentation. First of all, on behalf of the Sports Wall of Fame, I'd like to thank you for the confidence and support you continue to show in the nominating committee for the Sports Wall of Fame. The committee appreciates and thanks those who took the time to initiate and submit nominations for 2023. The nominating committee developed a timeline for its work. Nominations were received until September 8, 2023. The nominating committee met to review the nominations on September 14th. The date for the installation ceremonies is Sunday, November 25th. The nominating committee is pleased to make the following recommendations to the Board of Governors. 4 candidates will be inducted into the Sports Wall of Fame in 2023. The format of the ceremony should be continued as in previous years. The committee members based the recommendations for the induction to the Wall of Fame on the following. 1, is the nomination form completed? 2, is there relevant supporting documentation? 3, is the contribution of sports at the local, provincial, Atlantic, national, international level outstanding? 4, does the candidate meet the guidelines for the induction induction in Port Hawkesbury? 5, does the committee have consensus and the committee arrived at consensus? Before I name the teams and the individuals that we nominated this year or inducted, the committee also this year added a Straight Pirate Volunteer Appreciation Night to its program for 2023. The date of that event will be the 24th. The Pirates got a home game here, and we're going to all the past committee and volunteers and whatever anybody involved in the Pirates since 59 years, I think it is, are going to have a little celebration for them on that night on the 24th. And we're all welcome. If you guys are all welcome, obviously, as the board. And that's the night before the official induction ceremonies, which will be on the 25th. Before I say the announcements, tell you who they are, I would like first to congratulate and commend our committee that we had. Myself as council representative, Michelle Farrell is our secretary. She does a lot of work. John Davis, unbelievable the amount of work Mr. Davis does as our chair, ongoing. We have Mr. Roy Dobson, Mr. Terry McDonald, and Paula Davis, who everybody knows how valuable she is to any committee or any organization. So with that being said, I'm going to announce, and by the way, I want to thank the mayor today. And we wanted to do this first, she called all the inductees, called them all in advance so they would know before anybody else, including this council. So our 4 Plus, sorry, I forgot one other thing. This year we have something else new, and that is a youth sports representative. We started. We have one male and one female youth representative, and that's going to continue going forward every year. And I have their names also. So the team names is, the first team, I'll start with the oldest. It's the 1909 junior hockey team from Port Hawkesbury, who were the Cape Breton champs in 1909. I think that'll probably save a little money on our food, because I don't think there'll be too many of them here. But anyway, our next inductees are going to be another team. It's the 1975 Straight Hustle Flyers Maritime Intermediate Baseball Champions. And their representative in here is John David Keith, and there's a lot of guys and gals from Port Hawkesbury on that team. Our individuals is Mike Ryan. He's a builder in baseball and softball. Our other inductee as the individual is Mr. Frank McGinnis. He was an athlete over years. He took part in track and field for our provincial teams. He represented Port Hawkesbury at different things. He played basketball, he played softball, and he was an avid horseman. And he's going to be inducted. The two youths that are going to be inducted also, the male youth is Blake Marchand, track and field, basketball, and softball. He's the male. And the female is Sarah Pluta, volleyball, soccer, and softball. She's involved. And I would like, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. As a result of your report, would you care for council to make a motion?
Yes, thank you. I would just like the council to make a motion to approve the members that the committee brought, and to just ratify, I guess, the whole program that we'll be having. I guess it's already done by me.
Thank you. What is the wishes of council? Would you like to make that motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion, or if you're prepared to call the question?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. The motion is approved. Anything else with regard to that item?
No, Your Worship, thank you. That's good. I'd just like to say that the committee, I did mention the committee, they did an awful lot of hard work this year on that. And I'd like to also, sorry, while I got the chance, I'd like to thank Annie Beaton, who did a lot of work on the pirate part, contacting all the volunteers over the years. She was unbelievable, the work she did on the committee's behalf.
So on behalf of council, definitely relay our gratitude to all the work for both the committee members as well as those that assisted in the process.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, so we'll move on to acknowledgements. October is a very busy month for acknowledgements, but I'd like to go through a few quickly. Certainly, September 30th was National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And if members of our council haven't done so yet, I would invite you all to go check out the J. Franklin Wright Art Gallery. There is a Truth and Reconciliation art show currently in there. It's absolutely beautiful. There's lots of information in there as well with regard to how we can all participate in the process of truth and reconciliation. Also, October is Mi'kmaq History Month here in Nova Scotia. I'll also acknowledge that October is also Women's History Month. October 1st is National Seniors Day, and October 5th is World Teachers Day. October 11th is International Day of the Girl Child, which asks folks all across our country to acknowledge the voices and power of girls. And lastly, October 18th is Persons Day, which refers to an important process or change in 1924, where there was a historic decision that saw the legal definition of persons to include women, which opened the door for women's participation in politics. And I would ask if council have any other acknowledgements they would like to make this evening.
Halloween.
Yes, we will do Halloween under additions. I'm sure lots of kids would like that acknowledged. So we'll move on to approval of council minutes. We have a special public meeting of council from August 14th, 2023. I would ask at this time if there are any errors or omissions. Okay, hearing none, I would ask if there are any errors or omissions of our public hearing from September 5th, 2023. Hearing none, I would ask if there are any errors or omissions from our public meeting of council from September 5th, 2023. And I think Melissa and I already noted that the date of the Sports Wall of Fame would be corrected. I think that might be in those 7 minutes. I think it was an October date, but we'll change it to the November date. But any other errors or omissions for that one? And lastly, the bylaw and policy meeting of September 19th, 2023. I would ask at this time if there are any errors or omissions. Business arising from the minutes of any of those 4 meetings.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
On
Councilor
the
Carter.
special public meeting, August the 14th.
Okay.
I guess number 4, town maintenance and grass cutting.
Okay.
I know last committee of the whole, we went over I think that what staff came up with, and they did get some work done, and we did have prices, and I believe we discussed it in length.
Yes.
That it was quite costly to have it done. So I was wondering if there's any work or follow-up on the original motion to purchase the trail mower attachment for our own machine.
Okay, thank you, Councilor McIver. Over to staff.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. So the work was done on pricing for the attachment for the trackless. We also had staff and yourself, I believe, visit Pictou County and review the performance of that. We've been looking for if there's any other options as well. So we've looked for an attachment for a tractor, an attachment that would work off a small loader or the backhoe as well. At this point in time, that's the one that is the attachment that will work best off our equipment. The cost is quite expensive. It's over $50,000 for that one piece of equipment. The thought being it would be taken back to a committee of whole. Now that we're in the fall of the year and most of that work is done for consideration of council of what you would wish to do, or through the budgetary process as well.
Anything further or any other questions?
No, I thought tonight maybe, depending on council's decision, was the motion has already been passed to purchase after the amendment was acted on. And I thought tonight there'd be discussion with our finance director of if council wishes to move forward with the purchase of where we're going to take the money from, and take, I guess, advice from our finance director.
So through your worship, I think my recommendation the last time was to look at other options. And that's a considerable amount of money to spend outside of the budgetary process. My thoughts were that the results that council wanted were somewhat satisfied with some of the bush hogging and whatnot that happened in the areas that were problematic to council. That's where I thought we were at. I didn't think that I was coming to this table tonight to make a recommendation or to provide information on how we purchase a piece of equipment, because I didn't know that we were at the point where we understood exactly what the sticking points were from council. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Maybe I can just get clarification too. So maybe I misunderstood the motion as well. So the amendment to the motion is to amend the original motion to have staff explore potential options to achieve clearing in identified problem areas 3 times per year, one option being purchase of the equipment. So the amendment was approved to the original motion, and the original motion was approved as amended.
Correct.
So we were looking at options, that we were directed to get options.
Yes, and I believe you did. I know I had emails from Jason. It was upwards of $5,000 per mow. I don't have my phone with me, but and we had the discussion at the table at the committee of the whole that was a lot of money and cost us $15,000 a year to have it done 3 times. So I thought it would revert back to the original motion to look at the attachment for our trackless in order to do this. And you indicated earlier that you did look at other options, and that would be the piece of equipment to do it. The only other question was, I think at that meeting was the deputy mayor had asked about Prince Street Park. And this piece of equipment is not suitable for that hill. So I guess my question would be, is council wish to pursue the original motion, which is to purchase the Rafael mower, or to look at other piece of equipment, maybe that'll do Prince Street Park and that? I know from my experience with it, there is equipment there, but it's going to cost probably about the same amount of money as the boom trail mower, maybe a little more, because you got to buy attachments for it. It's a Ventrac tractor. It's it can do 30-degree slopes and stuff like that with mowing. But I'm just taking the information from our last meeting, and it's entirely up to council if they want to continue talks or go through with the motion.
Could we get some more information on the second piece of equipment that you had mentioned in terms of cost and that sort of thing? And just a question, but and Deputy Mayor had his hand up, and Aaron as well. So we'll start with you.
Thank you, Your Worship, for you. I'm just looking at the, I remember this pretty clearly, and the motion was made to buy the mower, and I knew the reasons why. There was a lot of incidents, and everybody knew, and myself, I was worried that there was a lot of stuff wasn't getting cleaned up, and I think everybody around the table had a concern of somewhere in town. So we did make the motion to buy the piece of equipment. And then the motion was amended to give the ability to staff to come back, and I know I'm repeating things that Councilor McIver said, but the motion said to come back, and if it's feasible to rent somebody out, or to rent these equipment, or to get somebody to do it. And I think that the $5,000 one, if I'm correct, I think there was more involved than that. I think was the waterfront part that I was really impressed with was above and beyond that, I think. If that was the 5,000 too, and I'm kind of happy with it, but 5,000 3 times a year is still 15,000 more or more. It's going to be, you're going to be close to $20,000 a year, and it's going to cost you 50 to buy it. So that's the amendment. So the amendment passed unanimously, and we did the amended part. So then we go back to the original motion, and the original motion passed unanimously. So we're either going to spend $20,000 in my mind, because the motion is a motion of council. We're either going to spend $20,000 3 times a year and keep the town cleaned up and looking half decent, or we're going to buy the piece of equipment. That's the decision. That's my take on the motions. We can't just be making motions out there. We'll figure out the motion. We'll worry about that later. It's a motion to this council.
Aaron?
Just, I haven't seen the invoice for the work that was done, and I think my kind of recollection of the conversation and the motion was that we were going to try to meet the expectations of council in cleaning up the town, and whether that's 2 times a year or 1 time a year or 5 times a year, I'm not sure what that is, and I haven't been provided the information on what it would take to satisfy council's expectation of bush hogging or grass clearing. I just think that when we take things outside of the budgetary process, we forget the other things that may have dropped off our list that were priorities during that time. So just to keep that in mind, that there was probably other items that we didn't move forward with during the budgetary process that would have cost $50,000 that were priorities enough at that time to have discussions on. And we have numerous items that are going to be coming forward in the upcoming capital plan as well, that we need to determine how to finance. So that's just my comment.
Your Worship, I don't want to get into a back and forth here with anybody here tonight because I'm not in the mood either, but the motion came from council to do it, and it specifically says right there, have staff explore the identified problem areas 3 times a year. So that's the amendment right in the motion. Didn't say 5, didn't say 1, it didn't say get it done. It says 3 times a year, and my math, over $5,000 times 3 is 15, and I think it's more than that. So I'm just going by the motion.
Terry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe the bill was 3,400. I don't know, I'm not sure where.
And that's including Granville Street?
Yeah, that's the.
Harrison did?
Yes. That's my recollection.
Who else did we have on?
I didn't see an invoice yet, so.
That's my recollection. So the amended motion reads that we'll look at the options. One is to rent or to hire the service, and the other one is to purchase. So I'd expect council to consider both or all options before decisions made. That's typically done in committee of the whole.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, that was done at committee of the whole, where our director, Jason, had done the work with Kat from Sydney for a piece of equipment to do the bush work and all the work that we talked about around town, and it came back with a price of $5,000 each time. And that we discussed that at committee of the whole, where it would cost us $15,000 a year to have done what we wanted done. And we thought it was a little bit much. And I think we all agreed on the option to purchase at that time. But also, like you had mentioned, I'd gone to Pictou County at New Glasgow actually and looked at the piece of equipment in operation. And we had, I think Jason had videos and stuff. And I shared it with council. And their trails and walkways are all nicely manicured, where what we see. Seen the machine taking back trees, like where limbs were coming out over walkways, where the boom is like an excavator boom. He takes it up and puts the mower right on the trees and then takes them back. So again, I thought that was the direction we were going in and what we discussed at our last meeting of committee of the whole. And from the special meeting was the motions. So like I said, the motion should be followed through unless council has other concerns or other councillors have other concerns not to follow through with it.
Okay. Just for clarification, when you first brought up this business arising, you mentioned that the first item that had been discussed originally from the last public meeting,
Or it's a special meeting.
or special public meeting
Right.
during the summer, was unable to do Prince Street Park Hill. And then you mentioned the second.
Yes.
Okay, so that wasn't necessarily discussed at that time, but
No,
what's the information on that? Like, I'm just not
that
familiar
was
with
a
what that
question
is.
that the deputy mayor had asked. And
Okay.
like,
For
I know
Prince Street Park.
in the past, it's been mowed, we've mowed it ourselves. I don't know where we're continuing with that. But this piece of equipment is not designed like for a slope like that.
Right.
Because it's, and I think all councils aware that this piece of equipment fits on our trackless. So that piece of equipment cost about, I'm gonna say 280,000 roughly, brand new. It kind of utilizes it for the spring and summer and fall, and not just the winter for doing your sidewalks and stuff, and that's what it's used for in town. And in Pictou County, they have actually had 3 machines, and they utilize their trackless, doing their walkways and stuff. And I think about a month, they use it about a month a year. And I know we talked about who would be operating it and time-wise and stuff, and I was quite surprised because the day we were there, it was raining. And a lot of times our works department, there's an extra guy or 2 because it's raining. This machine works well in the rain. It cuts grass, weeds, trees in the rain. So unless the deputy mayor wants to pursue and look at another piece of equipment that maybe do it all, we can certainly look at that if he wishes. I can do some work on it I've done before, but I know that they're probably going to be about the same price, if not a little more. They're an American machine, and they have one distributors in Prince Edward Island. And for the record, it's a Ventrac, and anyone can go online and take a look at it.
Yeah.
But that's up to council.
It'd be interesting to have a little bit more information to make sure if we're gonna be investing in something, it's the right piece of equipment. It's gonna do.
Well, that piece of equipment is what I think of the general consensus of talking, but it wouldn't mow grass. Like, this is for over the bank bushes,
Right.
ditches, trees, or active transportation lanes that we have, and we're gonna have more, hopefully. It'll keep them all clear if you do it like a couple times, 3 times, we said a year, it might be twice a year or something. And as Pictou County was, in round figures, he told us 1 month. So if it took our works department guy after it was initially done, it might only take him 2 days to make the rounds once you get everything down. And like, the longer you leave it grow, the harder it is to get rid of. So, like, again, it's up to council.
Councilor Flynn?
Through you, Your Worship. Councilor McIver, the second piece of equipment that Deputy Mayor had asked you about, will that also do the banks? Will that cut down trees that we need done? Or is there attachments that we have to add to that that are going to cost us another pile of money?
They're, through you, Your Worship. It's, this tractor, it's very versatile, but it's very costly. It's attachments. Like, you would buy like a frail mower for the front of it. You would buy a deck for mowing. You would buy a plow for plowing. Like, it has all its individual. So it is more money, and you can get them. I think the last time I looked at it, you were looking at around 40 grand, I think, without a cab. So if you put a cab on it, it's any machine, you're talking about 10 grand for a cab. So you're looking at 50 plus attachments, whatever you want on it. This other piece of equipment for the trackless is specific for that machine, and that's the attachment that goes on the front of it.
So through your worship, just some general comments. I don't believe we're gonna buy one piece of equipment that's gonna satisfy everybody for everything that council wants done. Because there's no piece of equipment that can go cut down trees, bush hog, where we want bush hog down over banks, and then still mow Prince Street, Park Hill if we decide to do it, and everywhere else in town. For many years, Prince Street Park has been mowed
By hand.
by hand or otherwise. I looked at the proposal of the $5,000 a year. I heard Mr. Doyle today say that the last bit of work done was roughly $3,400. There's a lot of work still left to be done over top of that $3,400. A lot of work. And I don't understand why we would keep paying outside contractors to come in and do our work when we can buy the piece of equipment and have our own employees do it. I mean, was it last year or the year before, we had a contractor out in the new subdivision for a day or two or three clearing the corner. Then we had them go down in front of the old call center, all different places of town that can be done with this one piece of equipment. So my recommendation is I support buying the new piece of equipment, that the frail mower.
Just before you make that motion, I just wanted to give an opportunity for Councilor McCrory to
Thank you, Your Worship.
make a comment.
Through you, Your Worship, to Councilor McIver, I just wanted to clarify that when you talked about piece of equipment that you saw in action in New Glasgow, this is a flail mower that you're talking about.
Yes.
You were also talking about a Ventrac tractor, like you said,
That's a different piece of
that's a
equipment.
different piece of equipment, right? But that Ventrac would do everything, is it? With the proper attachments?
It wouldn't do the ditches and stuff like
Right.
that. It doesn't have the excavator boom type
Right.
of.
Yeah.
But it would do all your flat areas and stuff like that, and it could go over, it can do a 30-degree angle, so, I mean, it's good up to 30 degrees.
And did you say, Councilor McIver, that the cost of that is 60,000 approximately for the tractor?
I'm gonna just say, the last time I looked at it, I think it was around 50 grand with a cab. It's an American machine.
Mhm.
There's one supplier that I know of is in Prince Edward Island.
Mhm.
And I actually had a machine here for the school. We tried it. Everybody loved it, but we were primarily using it for mowing. But it is a very versatile machine, but it's a lot more money and it has more attachments that cost too, if you're gonna utilize a $50,000 piece of equipment. Like, you could talk probably $7,000 for a mowing deck for it. Like, I don't know all the exact costs of attachments, but it's a lot more money.
So just to clarify then, just as we're looking at that tractor, then in addition to the tractor, you have to buy the attachment. So you'd be buying a flail mower to go on that tractor,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And the flail mower is $50,000.
No, I don't know what the the mower that we're looking at.
Yes,
The attachment for our tractors is around 50,000 plus.
right. So it would be,
For us to buy a Ventrac, I'm saying this is a few years ago,
Yeah.
actually, the previous CAO was looking at the same tractor. At that time, you're looking at about 50 grand for a tractor with the deck.
Mhm.
And that's for mowing grass.
right.
So I don't know what the other attachments are worth. You'd have to call, or it's Redden, I think, in Prince Edward Island that had it.
Just a point of order, Your Worship. I mean, there's no motion on the table, this is,
I think Councilor McCrory was prepared to make a motion. I just, in good faith, wanted to make sure that Councilor McCrory had a chance to have a say.
Okay, go ahead, I'm just gonna make a point.
But everybody's had a chance to speak, so go ahead.
We shouldn't be talking unless there's a motion on the table.
Councilor McCrory has made.
Through your worship, I think the motion has already been
That's my
made.
point. We have a motion from the last meeting.
I think if there was any motion tonight, it would be, if we were taking the money from the reserve, and what reserve, like, to pay for it.
Well, we have some options that have been presented by staff, so technically, council does have to decide on what option it wants to go with, so that motion has not yet been made.
That's correct.
Okay, so does council require more information in terms of the actual cost of the purchase, or what is the wishes of council here?
Your worship, correct me if I'm wrong, but did Jason not provide us with the cost for the flail mower?
He did, through your worship. He did say $50,000. I think that was the piece of
Jason
equipment.
McMillan. Oh,
I think-
sorry.
No. And I think Mr. Doyle indicated tonight it was a little over 50,000, so somebody was looking into it.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, no, thanks. So it is, we say $50,000 because that's an approximation, so I'm not 100% sure what that actual cost is. It's in that order. So certainly if there's a motion, and there's no motion on the table to purchase that, only to explore options at this point. So if there's a motion made to purchase that, then we don't have the exact cost of that. And that has to be done. We also have to understand the budget implications with respect to this as well. So we have a close to deficit budget, which will certainly put us in deficit position, and we have to determine how this is financed as well, and the impact on other purchases moving forward. Should this decision be the priority of the council? Because there was a number that were delayed last year because we were trying to under equipment, trying to stay within our budget. So
Through you, yes, you're right, that's through the budget process though. This here, the motion specifically says, moved by Councillor McIver, seconded by Deputy Mayor McDougall, that the town of Port Hawkesbury purchase the extension attachment boom flare mower, end. That's what it says. That's the motion. Read it. And then there's an amendment that says to look at just what we explained about the $5,000 3 times a year. We're not happy with the amendment, go back to the original motion, and that's what the motion says. And I understand what you're saying, but if a motion comes to this council, staff's got to act on it.
through you, Your Worship, just for clarification, you approved an amendment to the motion. So you amended the motion. And that amended motion indicates that staff are directed to look at options, including rental and purchase.
And we discussed it at our last meeting, the whole meeting.
The last committee of whole meeting, Mr. McMillan was not here. I presented for Public Works, and I did not discuss that at Public Works. So I'm not certain where that comes from. Whatever the wish of council, we're just talking procedurally. If that's your wish to move forward with this purchase, then we have to figure it out. But I'm just trying to clarify where we're at.
Councillor Quinn, do you want to repeat the motion that you made?
I didn't put the motion on the table.
Okay,
I said I supported the motion.
okay.
Well, through you, Your Worship.
Well, we would need a motion to
I'm
purchase.
a little
that.
bit confused with the original motion and the amendment.
The amendment
because-
stands as if it was approved, so.
Right, and we
Need
have it
motion
in the
to change.
minutes, and we did discuss it, and we did vote on the original motion. Because it's right here that it was carried unanimously, the original motion.
As amended.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry to
it-
interrupt.
no,
There's
that's
two
fine.
No,
motions.
there's
There's
two
two
motions.
motions, Your Worship.
There was a
What's the
motion to
amendment?
accept the amendment, and then you have to have a motion to accept the motion, the original motion.
Well, the original motion was amended, and the amendment includes the potential purchase as a potential option. So now there's several options at council's discretion. So whatever option that council wants to choose, you would need a motion to make that choice. You were presented with options, and now a motion would be in order to settle on an option as presented by staff.
Through you, your worship, with the information that I have and received on the bush cutting and that, I would make the motion to buy the attachment, the boom frail mower for our trackless.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with regard to that purchase. Any comments or questions?
Question.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded? Okay, the motion is approved. Any other business arising? Okay, we'll move on now to council committee reports. Over to you, Terry.
Yes, your worship, so from committee of whole, report from committee of whole, motion for council's consideration that the town of Port Hawkesbury extend the tax sale preliminary notice period from 14 days to 30 days.
Okay, what is the wishes of council?
Motion moved.
Do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary minded, motion is approved. Any other items, Terry?
Yes, also from committee of whole, motion for consideration that the town of Port Hawkesbury send a letter of support to the Petapa in support of the Youth Leadership Forum.
Okay, so what's the wishes of council for the support letter?
I'll move the motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Second, your worship.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion is approved.
That's the report from committee of whole.
Okay, thank you. So you've all had the minutes of the committee of the whole circulated from September 19th. I would ask at this time if there are any errors or omissions. If there are no errors or omissions, I would ask for a motion to approve those minutes.
I'd move that, your worship.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All of those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary minded? Okay, the minutes of the committee of the whole, September 19th are approved. I would ask at this time if there's any business arising from those sets of minutes. At this time, I don't believe we have any motions coming from in camera. For correspondence, I think we do have correspondence, but we're dealing with it under other business for seasonal services. No proclamations, so we will commence other business. We'll hand things over to Terry for council expenses.
Yes, your worship, council expense report for September 2023. Small expenditure for $580.28 for the month of September. There are some expenses that haven't been recognized that will come forward in October that occurred in September. But that is the expense report, which is posted on our website, and has been distributed to council.
Thank you.
Your worship, in terms of correspondence, I do have a letter here from Morgan Beaton,
Oh, okay.
sponsorship.
Do you want to speak to that, Councillor?
No, I just point out that there is a letter in the package.
Okay, I think it's under request for support that's next.
Is it?
Mr.
Okay,
Councillor.
yep, great, thank you, your worship.
But you're welcome to speak
Thank
to it
you.
now if you like. I mean,
I'm fine.
all right.
You know, you got your home cooked, but I think you
No, I'm not being facetious here, just asking the question. So we do have a letter, as Councilor McCrory has
Astutely
had us
pointed
have
out.
the hop on, so Terry. fuel.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this could come under correspondence or other business, yes, under other business. So this is a letter, this is from Morgan Beaton. Morgan Beaton, 22-year-old from Fort Hawkesbury, riding horses, and specifically barrel racing for a number of years. She's been asked to attend an international National Barrel Horse Association World Championship in Perry, Georgia, USA. And we're seeking out businesses and the municipality if they're interested in helping her. It is an international event. In looking at our policy, it would appear this is typically a policy is around teams, and the team would be $500 would be considered for a team, but in this case, staff is recommending a donation of $200 to assist Morgan.
Okay.
Certainly something that staff can, or council can.
Okay, what is wishes of council with regard to that staff recommendation?
Your worship, through you,
Over to you, Deputy Mayor.
she's going to, I mean, I gotta be frank here, and I never seen this, but she's going, I know the policy, I remember making the policy, it was if you go out of province, that you qualify, and she's going out of the country. This is pretty amazing in my mind. So,
I don't have Your Worship, I don't have the policy in front of me, but when we looked at that, and Melissa's certainly gone through it as well, so there's two categories. So one is within the country, and that's $200 for a team, and out internationally, and they refer to Olympics or any number of things, and they talk about a team, and they talk about $500.
Yeah.
So the recommendation was 200, but it's certainly a council decision.
Did you want to elaborate?
no, I'm just, I know, we gave 500 the last time the team, so to speak, hockey team. Yeah, I'm willing to go higher, but it's something.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Prince?
I know that the cost is quite high for Morgan to go. I spoke with her personally before we received this letter. It's quite the process. She's even gonna get a passport for the horse.
A horse passport.
Honestly, they can only travel so many hours a day. The horse has to rest. There's urine samples, blood samples that need to be taken every so often. It's a quite costly endeavor for her to go here, and she has grown up here her whole life, still lives here. I definitely support giving her some support, and if council's okay with the 200, so be it. If council wants to go a bit higher, I'm okay with that as well.
Councilor McIver.
Through you, Your Worship. As Councillor Farmer said, it's very expensive for Morgan to be going down to Georgia. It's probably between $8,000 and $10,000 just on her side. I know that she's trying to raise money to go. She is representing the province. Besides that, it's a big, I guess, representation from our town. And I don't mind moving the donation up as a team donation for out of the country.
500?
Yeah, if council wishes to support that.
I'd second that, if that's a motion.
Okay. You're making that
I would
motion.
move that.
And being seconded, so we currently have a motion on the floor. Councilor McClure.
I would support the motion, Your Worship.
Okay. Okay, so you have a motion on the floor. If you're prepared, you can call the question.
Question?
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Okay, motion is approved. Did you
Also,
want to add?
through you, your worship, I was asked if we had any, like a town logo, crest, or anything that Morgan can display on her trailer.
We have a couple of town jackets upstairs.
I got that great big flag you can pat. It's the size of this table. She could be one of her coolers. Over the horse.
Maybe we can work on that, but I don't think we need a motion to that regard.
No, I don't think, but I was just wanted to add it, and also maybe some town pins. I think
Absolutely.
Aaron keeps a stash under her desk there for
That's
special
right.
occasions.
Right next to the horse passports.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else on that item, Terry?
No, your worship.
So we'll move on to seasonal services request. Council is very familiar with this letter that's come forward for 2 decades now, and it's typically not needed. 3 decades, thank you, Deputy Mayor, the historian. So basically, the gist is that they fall short of meeting the needs for approximately 150-ish families that we would step up and assist with any shortfall. To date, in the past 3 decades, it has not been needed, but I would still ask council to consider supporting the letter, the request.
Motion moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. Okay, the motion is accepted, and we will table the next item under other business, and we will be holding a special public meeting with regard to that singular item. We do have a few under approved additions. We have Halloween restrictions, so I'll hand things over to staff with regard to that.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. Just for council's consideration, Halloween restrictions, again, an annual request. Motion for consideration, Town of Hawkesbury, permit trick or treating until 8 p.m. on Tuesday, October 31st, Halloween. Halloween mask will not be permitted to be worn on town streets after 8 p.m. And a 10 p.m. curfew will be in effect for ages 16 years and under.
So
Moved.
this again is the same.
Every year.
Every year. So moved by Councillor Coyne,
Second.
seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any discussion, or if you're?
On the question, your worship, can we also have the lights put on? We used to put the lights on, the tennis courts and the ball field down below. Any lights that we can put on in town?
Okay. We can definitely make that request to staff. Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, the motion is approved. The next item was added by Councillor LaForty, so over to you with regard to the Reed Street addition.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. So yes, I wanted to add this issue of Reed Street to the agenda. It's an issue that we need to try to bring forward with Public Works. We were all copied on correspondence back in, I have it here, back in May. And there was a letter, an email that came from Dwayne Cross, who's an engineer who's really, I think, really influential or really significant part of this Reed Street project. But he was apologizing for the fact that they hadn't been able to get together with council since a year ago, June, is when Narrative Research and Don Mills presented the findings of the survey, the community survey about Reed Street project, not just the street, but the whole project. And Mr. Mills at that time went over the fact that, council, you have this now, there's things that the public have brought up, and it's incumbent upon you to try to act on these things. So we had the presentation, and then as a council, we gave feedback, which everybody would remember, to Public Works, including Mr. Cross and a number of other engineers with Public Works. And they were going to go away with that, well, they went away with that information. And there were different suggestions. Again, it came back up about the permissive turning lights on Reeve Street. It came up to doing a more timely job as far as getting the lines repainted on Reeve Street in the springtime. There was quite a number of, there was the advanced signage that was discussed about coming up Reeve Street so that people would know far enough ahead of time that you could expect the left turning lanes and the straight through and the right through lanes at this particularly X corner of Reeve Street and Pitt. So the thing is, they went away. They were going to look at what things that they might address that we brought up, and I don't think I'd be over exaggerating if I said there was probably a list of at least 12 different items that we had provided to them. And they were supposed to, as part of this whole pilot project, this whole exercise, and it was a pilot project which started in 2019, and here it is 2023. And as I say, the last meeting that we had with Public Works was a year ago, June. So I'm putting this on I'm putting it on for the purposes of asking for our CAO to make contact with Public Works. And I think there's a gentleman that's taken over the project now from Dwayne. Dwayne has gone on to, he's still Public Works, but he's in a different sort of capacity. But the gentleman, I think, is Mark Brace, is the gentleman that is responsible for the Reeve Street project. So I guess I'd make that motion, and that the CAO would get in touch with Public Works, and maybe in particular Mr. Brace, to request that they arrange to meet with council as soon as possible to give us an update on the project from their perspective based on conversations that we had a year ago, June 2022.
Just before you etch that in stone, we'll just get Terry to do a quick update because it may not be needed.
Well, that'd be the conversation. I made the motion, and somebody would second it.
I will second it.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. So Terry, if you could provide an update.
Yeah, so just maybe a reminder, there was a motion from council that the town of Port Hawkesbury sent a letter to the Minister of the Department of Public Works asking for clarification on the concerns council brought forward in June 2022 regarding the Reeve Street pilot project and what long-term plans have been made for permanent improvements based on the recommendations that council requested. So that motion was made by council, and there was a letter sent on June 27th with the concerns that were identified. Part of that was a fair amount of work that actually identified the actual concern. So identified the concern and identified the recommendation. There were 17 of those that were identified. Some of them were smaller, and some of them were fairly extensive. But this was work that was really summarized, work of the committee, work that came, suggestions from council, any number of things. So that did go forward. Since that time, not only Dwayne Cross, who was one of the two engineers that was assigned to the project, both have moved on to different jobs. There is a permanent replacement, it sounds like now, for Dwayne Cross. But I've also reached out to the deputy minister on this file, and to others in the department to get an update, because really government should be responding. There's been no response to this letter in 3 months. So that has to be. So I will reach out with this letter, and I've actually reached out to the staff engineer that you had indicated today. It's the first time I had realized that there was a replacement. Thank you for that information. So the concerns are identified, the corrective actions that our recommendations have been identified, the concerns have been raised at the highest level within Public Works of the minister and the deputy minister and the staff under there, and these things have been, and the letter has also been sent to our MLA, and was resent to our MLA as well.
And the gentleman that you identified, Councillor McCrory, I believe Terry CC'd me on a note, an email that he was sent earlier this afternoon, identifying exactly what you requested for them to potentially meet with us to discuss as a council with regard to all the recommendations we moved forward in the letter from 3 months ago. So again, that's my point to not needing that motion was because that was done earlier today.
Your worship.
I believe Jason was first, and then we'll go over to you.
Through your worship, this is becoming very frustrating. When I first came on council, we formed a committee that Councillor McCrory and I sit on. We met a few times, gave what the recommendations from council. It's been well over 18 months since that committee met. Terry has been trying to get some answers with not a whole lot of luck. I state first for the people watching this, we do not own Reeve Street. The province is going to do what they want to do, and that's final. But I think it's time we as a council stop going through the CAO and we directly contact the minister's office and request a meeting. It's time for the elected officials to stand up. Terry's been doing the best he can. They're not responding in a timely manner. Let's let the people who got voted in, let's put our voice forward. And let's demand it from the mayor and council and not go through Terry. And this is not a slight on Terry. They're not responding to Terry in a timely manner. Let the elected officials send the letter directly.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to allow staff to respond to, unless you wanted to respond directly to that.
I want to respond to the whole thing, yes. But not in question. Anyway, your worship, through you, I think Terry should be involved big time. Of course he should. The elected officials should be involved also big time. But I think, in all fairness to council and the staff, I think that I just hear you talking here about emails being sent and received and sent and whatever. I think council should be up on those emails, apprised of them, and at least be able to read them. Maybe this motion wasn't even necessary today if council would have seen these emails. So I don't know where these emails are coming from all of a sudden. Is that up there, Jester? Have these emails been around for a while, or did they just happen today?
Through your worship. So the main document is the letter. So there was a letter drafted, and the letter is not from the CAO, it's from the mayor. And it's politician to politician, which is the way that the process should work. And that's the way I've always done it. So if there's a letter going to a minister, it's from the mayor. It's from the mayor and council, and that's what occurred. So always, it's typically staff to staff. So council doesn't typically interact with staff interacts with staff. That's the way it goes. The minister will direct their staff to do whatever they want. And that's the way we follow. So the emails from staff to staff is typically something we're trying to get answers so we can report back to you. But if we don't get answers back from that, then there's nothing to be gained. There's no great amounts of information there. We're just trying to get clarification. Have you reviewed this? When do we expect this to occur? Mm-hmm. How come this is late? That's really there's nothing really to it, but it's gone several months, and we should have at least acknowledgement of the letter.
Your worship.
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree, but lots of times when there's letters, emails, especially sent to staff, you see them copied to the minister, the deputy minister, and somebody else. I don't think it's a bad thing to copy council if it refers to council. We're the ones that are in the front lines, and we're being asked questions every day about this and that. How come this and that? I got questions today about businesses on corners. I get questions about everything. So if there's an involvement going on, I think council should be involved. Sure. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. So we still have a current motion. Councillor McIver.
No, I'm good. I believe, I guess, it has been some time and we haven't got a response, and it would be good to meet with them. But also maybe before we met with them, I think we have a special meeting coming up to deal with another item, that maybe if council had the, I guess, the results from the survey to them, a copy of it, or maybe hit the high points or whatever to refresh their memories after 18 months.
So I guess to Councillor Coyne's point and the intent of Councillor McCrory's motion, perhaps that, although there was a staff-to-staff correspondence today, maybe there has to be another official letter from council to the appropriate, I guess, the deputy minister, minimum, maybe CC to the minister to go forward. I guess what specifics would you like to see in that correspondence?
Oh, well, Your Worship, I think I was positive to hear that Mr. Doyle has been having a conversation. To follow up on Councillor Coyne, then if that conversation is happening, I think it can be reinforced then to have a correspondence come from mayor and council to the minister. So if that would be an amendment to the motion.
Sure. Do we have a seconder on the amendment?
Second.
Okay, so the amendment is for council to send correspondence to the deputy minister, I guess reiterating what the same message that occurred from the staff.
To the minister, I think.
Minister. Okay.
And a copy of council, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we'll copy council. Okay, so we have an amendment. What's the wishes of council?
Question.
The question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded. So we have a correspondence from council going forward to the minister with regard to a request for a meeting to discuss the 17 items that we have already put forward, and to have all of those 17 items the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation, as Councillor McIver has stated. Okay, so what is the wishes of council on the new amended motion?
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, contrary minded. Okay, the motion is approved. Anything else on that item, Councilor McCrory?
No, Your Worship, thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll move on to future meetings. We do have a committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, followed by our next public meeting, which is Tuesday, November 7th, 2023.
Your Worship,
Yes,
question. On the November 27th.
Sure.
meeting, I think
November 7th.
We're going to be away.
Oh, thank you.
I think you're going to, I think you're the president of the NSFM. I think you should be there. I think I'm going.
Well, if the deputy mayor and the mayor are both going to that, I guess we could consider,
I think you're going to
Disney.
He's going to Disney.
we could potentially look at having it the day before to accommodate. So if we had it on the Monday, the 6th.
Not on that night, but I can do it for sure.
Jason and I can have a meeting.
I think you'll be,
Jason's going.
Am I not invited?
Your
We're
Worship,
going to Halifax.
Well, not till Tuesday.
are you not up there on the Monday?
I don't think so.
I think we go up on the 7th, right?
Yes.
So you would be there the Monday.
But I could drive up after our council meeting on that night.
Your Worship, just so for myself, I'm away from November 3rd till the 13th.
So could we look at the 14th?
I will be at a conference in Member 2 on the 14th.
Do we do 2 and 1?
We could find both of them on the 17th.
Wonderful idea.
On the 17th, that's a Friday.
On the 21st,
October, is it? No.
November.
November 21st.
So November 21st, we could do our public meeting and our committee as a whole combined. Is everybody available for that day?
I thought we were on the 7th.
So what Councilor McIver is suggesting is that we combine our public meeting with our committee of the whole. If there is any urgent business, we can always do a special public meeting. Okay, so we will amend our public meeting for November 7th to have a combined public meeting committee of the whole for November 21st.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're all good with that. So at this time, I would ask if there are any questions from the gallery? And any from virtual participants? Would ask for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Just being done.